The air in the Senate hearing room was already thick with partisan tension, but it was Senator Tommy Tuberville's low, dismissive chuckle that turned it toxic. He leaned into his microphone, his voice dripping with condescension as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett spoke passionately about supporting military families. "With all due respect, Congresswoman," he interrupted, a smirk playing on his lips, "what do you really know about sacrifice? Some of us in this room have actually lived this stuff." The room froze. Every staffer, every colleague, every camera operator held their breath. Crockett didn't flinch, but her expression hardened into something unreadable and utterly dangerous. He thought he could mock her. He thought this was just another political jab. But in moments, a faded letter from the jungles of Vietnam would leave him utterly shattered. This wasn't some minor partisan squabble over budget line items. The debate raging in that room was over the Veterans Health and Readiness Act, a monumental piece of legislation that would decide everything from PTSD treatment funding to armored vehicle upgrades for active duty troops. And standing in the foyer was Tommy Tuberville, a man who'd built his political brand on performative patriotism, but whose understanding of service began and ended with photo ops and hollow slogans. The former football coach treated military policy like a game, using it as a rhetorical cudgel to score points against opponents. But across the aisle stood Jasmine Crockett, the daughter of a man who had bled in the jungles of Vietnam, a woman who understood that true service wasn't a talking point, it was a sacred promise. She wasn't there to play political games. She was there to fight for the soul of that promise, for policies that honored real sacrifice, not just waved flags. This wasn't just about winning a debate. It was about exposing the very soul of service. And what happened next would redefine respect in American politics forever. To understand that dismissive chuckle, you have to understand the man. Tommy Tuberville's entire political identity is a performance built on a foundation of borrowed valor and hollow slogans. This is a man who spent decades in the world of college football, where victory was measured in points on a scoreboard, and allegiances changed with the highest bidder for his coaching talents. He parlayed that fame into a political career, trading playbooks for policy memos he never bothered to read deeply. His advocacy for the military isn't born from personal sacrifice or deep conviction. It's a costume he puts on, a convenient jersey to wear for the cameras. He speaks in sound bites about honor and service while consistently voting against veterans' healthcare benefits and troop funding increases. His history is littered with condescending remarks, particularly toward women and people of color who dare to speak with authority on issues he reduces to simple talking points. He's a man who confuses shouting with strength and patriotism with performance. But every performer eventually meets an audience that sees through the act. And today, that audience was a woman whose understanding of sacrifice was written in her father's blood. If Tuberville's understanding of service came from stadium cheers and political calculations, Jasmine Crockett's was forged in the silent, lasting wounds of war. She wasn't just a legislator speaking about veterans. She was a daughter who had witnessed the true cost of service firsthand. Her father, a decorated Army medic who served 2 tours in Vietnam, didn't come home with just medals. He carried the invisible scars of PTSD and the physical poison of Agent Orange in his veins. Crockett's childhood was filled with the sounds of her father's nightmares echoing through their small home. The sight of him fighting a government that denied his claims for adequate health care, and the quiet dignity with which he bore his suffering without ever losing his love for a country that often forgot him. He taught her that patriotism wasn't about flag pins or loud proclamations, but about the quiet commitment to never leaving a fellow soldier behind. A lesson that applied equally to the halls of Congress as it did to the battlefield. This wasn't theoretical for her. It was the very air she breathed. It was why she became a civil rights attorney, fighting for those the system had discarded, and why she now stood in Congress, demanding that the nation honor its sacred debt to those who served. Her entire life had been a preparation for this moment, a relentless pursuit of justice for those who served in shadow without seeking the spotlight. While Tuberville was drawing up plays on a football field, her father was drawing fire in a war zone, and that difference was about to collide in spectacular fashion. A smug, satisfied smirk settled on Tuberville's face, believing his dismissive jab had landed perfectly. He wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his voice taking on a more patronizing, almost theatrical tone. "I think we all appreciate the passion," he said, the words dripping with condescension. "But let's be serious about the substance here. We need real solutions, not just personal narratives." The implication hung in the air, toxic and unmistakable. He was dismissing her expertise as mere identity politics, reducing a lifetime of lived experience to a sentimental talking point. The tension in the room spiked. Aides behind him shifted, uncomfortably in their seats, while the C-SPAN cameras, sensing blood in the water, zoomed in tight on Crockett's face. He leaned back, waiting for her to sputter, to get defensive, to crumble under the weight of his belittling tone. Instead, her posture remained ramrod straight, her gaze unwavering. Her hand moved with a deliberate, calm purpose. He waited for her to crumble. Instead, she reached into her folder and pulled out a single, weathered piece of paper. The room held its breath as Congresswoman Crockett smoothed the creased paper on the lectern. Her voice, when she spoke, was not loud, but it carried the weight of generations. "You want to talk about sacrifice, Senator? Let's talk about sacrifice." She began to read, her words echoing in the stunned silence. The letter was not a glorified war story. It was a raw, unvarnished confession from the jungles of Vietnam. A young medic's terror as helicopters circled overhead. His anguish over a friend lost to a sniper's bullet. His despair watching men suffer from illnesses no one could name, from wounds that never fully healed. She wove his experiences seamlessly into the policy debate, connecting his decades-long battle with Agent Orange to the healthcare provisions in the bill, his PTSD to the mental health services they were fighting to fund. With every word, Tuberville's smirk dissolved. The color drained from his face as the abstract concept of military service was replaced with the brutal, human reality of it. She finished, her eyes locking on his, her voice dropping to a deadly calm. "So don't you ever question my family's service or my commitment to those who serve." The room was silent enough to hear a pin drop. Tuberville's arrogance had been vaporized by the truth, and all he could do was stare at his hands. The clip didn't just go viral. It detonated across the digital landscape with the force of a moral earthquake. Before the hearing had even adjourned, A Real Sacrifice was already climbing Twitter's trending list, becoming a rallying cry for veterans and their families who had long felt unheard. The video was sliced into powerful moments, her calm opening, the reading of the letter, Tuberville's crumbling expression, each shared with captions like, "This is what service actually looks like," and "Meet the daughter of a real hero." Prominent. Retired generals and admirals, typically silent on political spats, released statements praising Crockett's courage and condemning the disrespect shown to military families. Even conservative commentators found themselves unable to defend Tuberville, with several noting on air that he had crossed a line that should never be crossed. News cycles abandoned scheduled programming to dedicate segments to the letter's powerful content and Crockett's flawless delivery, with historians providing context about Vietnam War experiences and journalists tracking down veterans who confirmed the letter's heartbreaking authenticity. The moment became more than political. It became cultural, a reference point for how we discuss sacrifice and service. But beyond the viral moment lay a deeper lesson, one about the cost of service and the emptiness of performative patriotism. What unfolded in that hearing room was more than a political victory. It was a cultural correction. For too long, we've allowed performative patriotism to masquerade as genuine respect for service, mistaking volume for valor and flag pins for actual commitment. This moment shattered that illusion, revealing the profound difference between those who use the military as a prop and those who understand it as a promise written in blood and sacrifice. Jasmine Crockett's triumph was a testament to the quiet heroes like her father, the veterans who ask for nothing but deserve everything, who need policies that heal their wounds, not platitudes that decorate political speeches. Her calm dignity, in the face of condescension, reminded us that true strength isn't found in loud proclamations, but in quiet conviction. That real patriotism isn't about shouting the loudest, but about serving the hardest, often without any expectation of reward or recognition. If you believe in honoring real sacrifice over empty rhetoric, if you stand with those who serve silently rather than those who perform loudly, then share this story with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe to this channel for more moments that prove integrity still matters in our political discourse.